never don't fret, we can't falter. In the battle, we're tried and true. Indiana, we're all for you.
Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Basketball Show on the Gruely True Sports Network. I'm your co-host, Mike Goodpaster, sitting here with former Indiana Hoosier. Well, I guess he's always an Indiana Hoosier. But 1981 national champion Steve Risley. And Riz, we got no more games this year.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I would think it's probably actually a good thing because it would just be another game where we would not show up for but the last 8 minutes and get blown out.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this. Did Indiana get screwed? Because you see all the IU fans that have no clue what the fuck they're talking about saying that IU belonged in North Carolina, and I don't think that's the issue, Riz. I think there's other teams that belong in more than Indiana or North Carolina.
If you want me to answer that, I kind of feel like the athletic director from North Carolina. You want the politically correct answer, or do you want to think that my influence has something to do with getting North Carolina in the tournament over West Virginia, Indiana, and Ohio State, all who had better accountable records? And, of course, that's not 100% true because we don't know. They put a whole bunch of new metrics in that we're not really.
Yeah, but Steve, here, we're not going to bring up IU because I think the biggest screw job was West Virginia. West Virginia's resume, they beat Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, and Iowa State, all wins against top 20 teams. That's four of them. They had an overall quad one record of 6-10, which is better than almost every other bubble team, including Indiana. And, you know, the 6 quad one wins were more than 13 at-large teams that were selected. Now, the other team that I think got screwed here was Boise State. Boise State had a 24-win season in the Mountain West, which got, I think, 4 teams into the tournament. And their wins were against tournament teams, Utah State, New Mexico. They beat Clemson in the regular season. They beat St. Mary's. They followed that up by beating San Diego State and New Mexico again before falling to Colorado State, who's in the tournament. They finished with a quad one record of 8-8. And right now you got Indiana fans bitching and moaning because IU, I mean, let's face it, IU was 4-13 quad one. I think that is better than North Carolina. I think they deserve to be in before North Carolina, but I think there is a better case to be made for West Virginia and Boise State. I think Indiana got what they got because they went 22-13, and the non-conference record was absolutely horrible.
I would think I got a lot to say. Let me say it before you start beating me up and interrupting. First, I think Indiana in the line of the first 4 out was number 3. Yeah. I agree with that. I think there were 2 teams ahead of us that got screwed worse than we did, if we got screwed. In terms of Indiana, I'll just say this. The crappy preseason schedule bit us in the ass. The lack of road games going against tough teams bit us in the ass. Not even going to get into the play of the players yet. And you know, I watched Wisconsin and Michigan go after, and I actually saw people diving on the floor for loose balls. I'm like, God, I haven't seen that since 1981. You know,
we've probably seen it more recently than that.
I'm being a little facetious, but it's
been a decade.
But I don't think Indiana got as screwed as bad as some other teams did. So now here's where I'm going to say this, and this is where you're going to beat me up and tell me it already happens that way, and it doesn't happen that way.
It does.
It doesn't. And listen to me.
I already know what you're going to say.
I'll see what kind of feedback you get on this. Play one more weekend. Let every freaking D1 team play like the old Indiana high school basketball tournament. Don't tell me conferences already allow that because you're still playing in your conference. I'm saying I want to see Indiana get slated to go play Montana and just do it like they did in high school. Sectionals, you just draw a random draw, you go play, and top 4 teams get in the final. Everybody's in, regardless of your record.
Everybody was in.
Because for Indiana to have to go through the Big Ten again when Montana goes through the Dead Buffalo Hunters League, whatever it's called out there, and now it's even more pertinent, Mike, because High Point has bought themselves a hell of a good basketball team. Purdue's in trouble. Purdue goes into this game against High Point thinking, oh, it's High Point. They have no idea what they're up against. High Point now can go spend money and buy themselves a really good basketball team. And I think if you just gave it one more weekend and just did a match like Indiana, the sectionals, first game, shut the towns down, shut the college towns down, everybody's in. But that eliminates the need for the Big Ten, the selection show, the conference championship. I mean,
it also eliminates the need to play a season.
No, it doesn't eliminate the need to play.
No, it does, because everybody's in.
That's right. You still play, but you still have conference championships.
Why?
Your conference tournaments.
Why?
I'm just saying for the sake of the tournament. Look, Mike, it'll never happen. It's hypothetical.
Well, no, because everybody's already in.
Because there's too much to lose. No, everybody's not in. No, there were 3 Big Ten teams that weren't in.
Well, that's because
they didn't get in.
That's because they went like 3 and 20.
You can't say that.
Well, then let them all.
How many Hickories have there been in Indiana high school? Aurora may not even have gotten in to beat the mighty Lawrence Central in 1977.
Aurora was better than Lawrence Central in 1977.
No, they weren't better than us.
Yeah,
they beat us. They were better on that night.
Dude, you went with guard play.
We didn't beat
Aurora. Much better guard play. And there was a coach's son that played for Lawrence Central that kept you guys from being that good. All right, Robert.
I'm just saying that's my solution. Indiana did not.
Well, I guess if you're an Indiana fan and you want to get in a tournament, everybody should be allowed in. That way we
based
can
on the parameters I'm saying based on the parameters that exist now, Indiana didn't deserve to be in a tournament. Not based on the current parameters and selection process. They were not one of the 68 qualified teams to play.
Yeah, Robert Schwartz said it went bad when they crapped a bed in the Bahamas. Robert Stewart said WVU should be in. Corey Stroud says WVU definitely got screwed. They blamed Tucker DeVry's injury on why he didn't make it. However, he's been out since December. Yes, and we're going to talk about possible coaches. If Tucker DeVry has another year, we probably should hire his dad to be the head coach because the kid's one of the best players in the country. But when we look at this, the thing that blew me away was a team like Michigan getting a 5 seed over a Purdue team and Wisconsin teams they beat twice each. I mean, the conference tournament obviously had no bearing on those seedings anyway, Steve, because there's no way that can happen.
Here's your Big Ten tournament champion, a team that's made a massive turnaround with a coach who's put a team like this into the Final Four before. It's amazing to me that when I saw Michigan with a 5 seed, even Kellogg and those guys go, "Wow, that's an eye opener."
Well, another one's
your
Louisville.
Big Ten champion gets a 5 seed.
Louisville should not be an 8 seed. They should be seeded better than that. They had a great season. And
we can debate.
Gonzaga is probably underseeded at 8. They should probably be a 5 or a 6. Both teams should probably be 5.
But here's the deal with that, Mike. And I'm not trying to argue with you.
At least they're in.
I'm just using cute little puns. They're in the tournament. I say you got to beat everybody to win the damn thing. So what your seeding isn't nearly as important as are you in or not. They're in. Michigan is in, and Michigan's going to wreak havoc. They're a well-coached team. They're a hard-working team. They hustle. They get after it. Wisconsin gets after it. And those are 2 teams that I've seen play, and there are others like that, I'm sure. But the fact that they're in and they don't get the seeding that they want doesn't bother me as much as a couple of teams that probably should have gotten in don't. But as I said, they broached on it in the selection show that they introduced a whole bunch of new metrics along with the Ken Pongs and the general, the strength of schedule, all the stuff that they've been using. They introduced some new metrics that I'm not wholly familiar with yet because I just picked up the end in the selection show. They introduced all these metrics. I'm sure they did somewhere else, but I was worried about NASCAR and the silly season and the off-season stuff with people changing seats in the NASCAR series. And F1 was a mess this year. Jesus Christ. I mean, F1's all over the place right now. So, and I was up at 3:00 this morning watching my beloved Dodgers open up the season. MLB is off and running.
That should not count.
It does count.
It shouldn't. There should not be regular season games played in Japan.
I agree with you, but they did it, and Dodgers won 4-1. They're up. Their season has started. The first game should have been played at Dodger Stadium. They're reigning world champions. You play that game, then you fly over and do your little rah-rah show.
You don't go there at all. So
I disagree. I don't have
Major
any
League Baseball.
I just don't think. But anyway, we're talking IU basketball. We'll do a show on baseball. Matter. But my beloved Dodgers won last night.
Yeah, the beloved Dodgers.
So,
all right, we got Robert Schwartz says that's been proven over the years. Barring some team that overachieves, the conference tournaments have little effect on who gets in. They might affect seeding, but even that is negligible. I do think if Indiana would have beaten Oregon, it probably would have got them in.
I agree. Had they beaten Oregon, had it been a barn burner, 2-point game.
Yeah. All right. So there are reports right now that the Indiana basketball coaching job is down to 3 candidates. I was going to get your opinion on this, but right now it is Darren DeVries, who is the head basketball coach of the screwed over West Virginia Mountaineers, Brad Brownell, and Ben McCollum. Brownell, of course, is from Clemson. He's in the tournament. McCollum is in the tournament with Drake. I don't know. Do you like those 3 possible candidates?
Sure. Yeah. I've not seen these guys coach all season. I don't know. You got what? One who didn't get his team in the tournament. McCollum, Drake is what seeding did they get?
They got an 11 seed at 30-3, and they had 2 quad 1 wins over SEC schools.
I'm gonna tell you what, wherever you play, if you take your team to 30-3
you're pretty good.
In the nil era, you're pretty good. Because the name on your jersey is not as important anymore as the bank account you have back in that jersey.
Well, I can tell you the one that I don't like out of all this is Brownell.
I agree. I agree. Now you said there's another name in the mix.
I heard the name Chris Collins, but everything I've heard, everything I heard on that was that he has possibly already agreed to take the Villanova job.
Playing a 6,000 seat arena.
Yeah, with national championship banners that are much more recent than Indiana's. He's got 2 in the last. They got a couple in the last decade. I think they got 3 overall, maybe 4, but I think it's
Jay
3.
Wright's a damn good basketball coach. He's wasting his time.
But Jay Wright should just come to Indiana. I'm hoping.
Would you love to see Jay Wright in Indiana?
Well,
holy cow!
Yeah. I mean, my thing is this: with the Tom Crean thing, he came out of left field. Nobody thought he was getting up for the job. Next thing you know, he got it.
Yeah, look at Brian's comment here. McCollum cites loyalty to his players, but didn't rule out Indiana. Okay, loyalty is marks itself now in nil money. McCollum comes. Look at what Signotti did with football at IU. He took the nil money and brought them all here. So McCollum comes. I would bet you a lot of these players, because right now the bank is wide open for Indiana. A lot of these guys are gone. Most of the big hitters are gone. And chalked right now, I mean, I did some numbers on the nil situation. Indiana's going to, now the ruling is 22.5% of all revenues generated by the university, by the athletics department, has to go to the players. Okay, 22.5%. Now, that doesn't include what Hoosier Connect and Hoosiers for Good are going to contribute as well. Which is God knows what. IU's nil budget this past season was upwards of $5 million. Upwards, $5+ million is the number I kept consistently seeing, with Balo getting about $1.2 million. Renew getting $1 million. Ibako, $800,000. Now, these are guesses. These are what I've been able to research. Tucker, $750,000. Rice, $500,000. Was it Carlisle? Carlisle 500.
Damn, he made $500,000.
Yeah, that's what. Well, these are. I can't validate these. These are just what.
That's like $100,000 a point.
And then Galloway 500, and then 1.5 million for the rest of the team. Mike, at worst, I'd have gotten $30,000.
And $30,000 back then would have been.
That would have been a new Escalade.
Robert Schwartz says one that didn't get into the tourney, one whose career has not been outstanding, one who could be the next coach, or could be or Coach K, or could be the next Archie Miller, or Matt Doherty equals big risk. Are you talking about DeVries, Robert? I mean, assuming that, but with DeVries, I wouldn't hate it if his son has another year of eligibility, because his son is an absolute monster. And McCollum, to me, is hands down the best choice. I like McCollum over a guy like Chris Beard even. I think McCollum is the safest choice, because if you watch the interviews he's done over the last week, I mean, he cited loyalty to his players, which, yeah, and that's the other thing. If McCollum does get the job, you've got, Sturts, his best player right now, who shoots almost 40% from three. I mean, the dude looks like a miniature Larry Bird running around in Drake. It wouldn't be bad to have him either. And Robert McCollum is in the tournament. I mean, this is his first year and he's in it. Now, this is the thing that drives me insane. People will cry about they want Chris Beard because McCollum is not proven. But Chris Beard, when he got his first job as a head coach at Texas Tech, his previous jobs were at 2 junior colleges. All right. At least Ben McCollum won Division II national championship. The other thing I would like to bring up to everybody here is almost every great basketball coach came from either a mid-major program, NAI, or Division II. They all have to get a start somewhere. And for people to say, well, he plays too slow a pace, if you watch his offense, it looks similar to Indiana's motion offense. They set screens, they move, they shoot the ball well, there's no wasted energy. And the thing is, if you remember, key is who gets the Iowa job, DeVries or McCollum. Whichever one Iowa wants, I guess. But the thing about it is this. I think the key would be Indiana has more money. So I would probably guess that DeVries would come here and McCollum would go to Iowa, because I really think from watching McCollum's interviews, I don't think he really cares about the money. I mean, he's got enough money to live off of no matter where he coached. And yes, McCollum would bring players with him. We will look at Drake, who's 30-3, won a conference championship. 5 of those guys came from Division II Northwest Missouri State to play for him. And the Sturts kid, if you get him, he would be the best player Indiana's had outside of Trace Jackson Davis in a decade. But I think McCollum is hands down the best choice. And I think they're probably not getting.
Talking about comments made about where they're from and where they've coached doesn't matter to me nearly as much as how their teams play. Right now, I'm just looking at what the kids throw on the floor. I go back to the Wisconsin-Michigan game and see how hard those kids played the game. I want to see that now. I want to see kids that I want to see a coach that has his players diving for loose balls.
Have you seen Drake play?
Parts of Drake, yeah. Yeah, I have no problem with McCollum.
Yeah, they play hard.
I have no problem with McCollum at all. The question is, does McCollum have a problem with Indiana? I can't believe we're even talking about this. This is freaking Indiana University. We have 5 banners hanging there. And I know it's been 87 since we've had one. But the foundation of tradition, excellence, and winning and blue blood is there. It's gone right now. It's eroded. But it's easier to get it get it back if the foundation is there than if there never was a foundation. Any one of these coaches, Mike, you have mentioned, should be drooling at the opportunity to come coach in Indiana if they're as good as they think they are, or we think they are. Because you're bringing a coaching style to a wealthy situation. And wealth plays a bigger part of this game right now than it did when I played. It does. Money talks, the bullshit walks.
All right. If McCollum gets the job, this is from Robert Schwartz.
Well, are you done? You want me to get off and you want to talk to Brian? And
actually, just talk for 5 minutes straight.
You need me to leave?
If you want, we could just ignore everybody that listens to the show.
All right. You don't rebut anything I say.
I didn't rebut anything you said. Why would I?
All right. Go ahead.
I agreed with it.
Talk
How
to
can
your
I
friends.
rebut it if I agree with it?
Talk to your friends.
How would I rebut something I agree with?
Talk
If
to your
McCollum
friends.
gets the job, most of the fan
You
base
don't agree with anything I say.
is going to expect Pat Kelsey, Louisville type results. How much patience do you believe the fan base will have? The fan base is ignorant. I mean, it is. You watch the way you get death threats, you get people booing. I mean, they're fucking idiots. I mean, you can't even have players stand out on senior night because they're afraid they're going to get harassed when they try to speak.
No. Don't blame that on the players.
I didn't. I just blamed it on the fans.
That's a bullshit administration move right there.
No, the year before
I don't care what happened the year
that
before.
were booed by the fans, and it's actually, I think it's probably a Mike Woodson thing.
I think the IU fan base has more class than that.
Of course, the fans would expect more than is. I hear them chant bullshit. They yell shit at Purdue. Now, it didn't happen when Bobby Knight was here. It'd be nice if we had a coach with a backbone again. Brian Wetters said, could it be Chris Beard? Wouldn't surprise me. It's likely be someone we didn't anticipate. That's what I think, too. I think that's very possible. Not maybe with Beard, because I think a lot of people want him. McCollum does run an offense like nice motion. Everyone is moving. Knight was a nobody when he came to IU. I don't think he was a nobody when he came to IU because he actually had Army in the NIT Final Four when it mattered.
He had beaten South Carolina, who was number one in the country.
Yeah.
Kevin Joyce and Tom McMillan, I think it was, wasn't or no, who was there? No, McMillan went to North Carolina, didn't he?
He was North Carolina State.
They had some big guy. They were number one, South Carolina, behind Kevin Joyce. They were number one in the country.
That's what got the Indiana administration's attention, too, was winning that game.
We saw that film. He made us watch that film in practice one day. Unbelievable how Army dismantled. Army didn't have a player over 6'5". They had height requirements. And they just absolutely dismantled South Carolina, the number one team in the country. We were all in tears because he was just trying to show you, if you guys will do what I tell you to do, you will be unbeatable. And he showed us what Army did, who regimented everything he said, followed him to a T.
Well, see, I think with the fan base, since it's Indiana and in 49 other states, it's just basketball. It is. Religion. I mean, people are so freaking stupid. Just because you watch Bobby Knight coach, don't mean you know what a good head coach is. Ben McCollum is a great basketball coach. DeVries is a hell of a basketball coach. Brownell's all right. So I'm just hoping it's not him. It is reasonable at the results of way too many poor seasons of bad coaching to be skeptical of the next hire. It is always reasonable to be skeptical of the next hire when the last time you were relevant was a decade ago, and you've had 3 or 4 coaches since then. It's always because the question here is, yes, McCollum is from Iowa, but as Steve said, this is Indiana, and I hate to sound like the fans I just ripped on, but I really think, I mean, if McCollum comes here, I mean, this is the thing. Last year, because I remember bringing this up on the show when the little midget bitch from, Fort Myers or something, the little Brian moron, and I said, well, when Dusty May got the job at Michigan, I said, well, you screwed up by not getting Woody's ass out of here and getting Dusty May. And I remember 7 or 8 people at Dusty May's, all they wanted a mid-major program. Well, how did that turn out? Dusty May has a Big Ten tournament championship, which Indiana's never won. And they've been playing the tournament for almost 30 years. And in his first year, he wins the Big Ten championship. So to me, that's an issue. I mean, people are so caught up with Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard. Hey, Bruce Pearl and Chris Beard, have they won national championships?
Well, here's the deal. What we've gotten so desperate on, Mike, is a couple of points here. We want to buy a brand. We don't want to make a brand.
We want to just continue the brand we had in 1987.
Yeah, well, one of these days, these people are going to realize Bob Knight's dead.
Yeah.
He's gone. I mean, we're never going to, and Bob Knight was an anomaly on top of anomalies. To find a coach like that That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that you find somebody like that.
Well, Indiana
arguably the best college basketball coach of all time,
found 3.
despite he's only 900 wins.
Hey, this is the problem. In 100 years, Indiana's found 3. You have Everett Dean, you had Branch McCracken, you had Bobby Knight. You also got 12 other guys that lost.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but you know, my doubt. You know, Robert talks about to be skeptical. I'll tell you where my skeptic lies is the selection process.
Yeah.
That's where my skeptics lie. If they don't change the way they do, why the hell does Indiana need to hire an outside basketball?
That's how they did it for Cignetti. I don't think it's bad because they're just going in and telling you if there's any skeletons that may cause an issue.
You know, I don't want to start an argument. I don't want. I want to see Cignetti in years 2 and 3. I think he's a good coach. He caught a lot of people off guard. Let's see what he does now when people are waiting for him to show up in their stadium. It may be a little different thing. I don't know. I just want to see.
They will win less games, but they will be a better team. They'll still win 8 or 9 games, but the schedule will be much tougher. There's still a shot they can make the playoffs. I think Cignetti is a hell of a football coach.
I do too.
And I think he's going to win at least 8 games every year. And as an IU fan, I will take that.
I think if Indiana can't muster enough basketball intelligence within its own ranks of people to put their heads together and say who fits the culture of our program the best. It's not some outside selection process.
Hey, I saw Steve Alford was in Huntington, Indiana the other day. Maybe there's a correlation.
I think that may be where he's coaching again, certainly.
and you've got Calbert Cheney sitting on the bench. You never know. Dolson might just say,
no, I don't think those guys are right. I think you damn well better get away from the former Knight player thing. You better get away from Bob Knight.
Real quick, Robert Schwartz. I am not saying Ben McCollum can't succeed. Just musing that the fans are going to have expectations. Fair or not, the judgment will come quick. But this is the difference, okay? When you look at Ben McCollum, the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he carries himself is not like Mike Woodson, who carries himself like a loser, Archie Miller, who carried themselves like losers. I mean, they just did. I mean, Ben McCollum's not going to give a damn what the fans are saying about him because he is a guy just like Cignetti, I think, that believes and knows that he knows what he's doing, and he knows that it'll be turned around. And I can tell you this, with Ben McCollum, a lot of people forget this. Coach DeVries left for West Virginia. He took Tucker, his son. That was a team that won 28 games last year. You know, they were ranked for part of the season. They made the tournament the last 3 years. And Drake, which is a mid-major, lost their head coach who went to West Virginia, and they lost their best player who was supposed to be irreplaceable. And what they did is they brought in McCollum, and they got better. And everybody's sitting there, well, can he take pressure? I mean, pressure at Drake may not be the same as Indiana, but it's a small town school. You know what I mean? So I'd imagine, and they're used to winning. So there is pressure there also. But I think if you go to Drake, it's like the guy who went to Indiana State this year after Schertz left and the entire team left after they went to the NIT final and should have been in a tournament last year. That guy came in and went like 12-18. DeVries goes to Drake or leaves Drake. The next guy up outdoes him. I mean, Drake's going to play Missouri, which is a very winnable game. I mean, Drake could end up in the Sweet 16 at least this year. And I think there's also Archie Miller had losing seasons at Dayton before he had the Elite 8 run. There's no losing season with Ben McCollum. He's won 4 Division II national championships. You may not think it's that big of a deal, but 5 guys off of that team went with him to Drake, and they're 30-3, and they're in the tournament. Indiana had millions of dollars, and their ass ain't. William says, great show, guys. Thank you, William. Braylon says, good day, gentlemen. Working down in Kingsland, Texas. Go IU. I'm in Texas Tech country where I'm at. Texas Tech, the former home of the legendary coach, Bob Knight. Since IU screwed him.
I don't know. I think he's somebody that's going to come in and win quick. I think McCollum is probably the best candidate for that. It's always a crapshoot. You don't know.
No, you don't know. We
all thought that who's the guy from Dayton? What was his name?
Archie. We all thought I thought Archie was a good hire.
Archie Miller was going to be the next McCollum. You know, we all thought, oh, God, he's done incredibly well at Dayton. He's put that team in the tournament. overachieved with him immensely. He comes to Indiana and just shits on himself, and for some reason, Indiana it's like there's too many chefs in the goddamn
Hold
kitchen.
on here. Brian says we all place too much emphasis on the coach, and the end is the players that turns the program. I disagree with that completely because the coach goes against the players and he sets the culture. What do you think, Steve?
I'm sorry, Brian. I agree with Mike on this one. We've had great players, but we haven't had a great team. We've had all Americans. We've had number 1 draft picks out our ass.
Hell, Trace Jackson Davis was one of the top 10 players. I think
we've had more number 1 picks without Knight than we did with Knight.
Yeah.
Hell, we had Isaiah. Isaiah wasn't the number 1 pick. We had Benson.
Yeah,
was Isaiah number 1?
Yeah, he was.
Benson was number 1.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was number 1 pick. I just saw an article
Bucks
on that.
were stupid then.
Pardon?
The Milwaukee Bucks were stupid as hell.
They were, yeah.
Take a slow white guy.
Yeah, but no, I think he may be the only other number 1 pick Indiana's ever had.
Yeah, and I think
we had first rounders. Woody was a first rounder. Tolbert was the first rounder. Alford was a first rounder. Yeah, he was. He was a first rounder. Dallas.
Second round.
Second round, was he really?
He shouldn't have been that high.
Oh, the Pacers passed on him to take Reggie Miller. Oh,
yes.
Boy. How'd that turn out for him?
Well, the Pacers would be playing in London or something if they wouldn't have taken Reggie Miller right there, because that probably would have been the end of the show. For
probably one of the 5 best shooting guards ever to play the game of high school professional basketball, and one of the biggest clutch players.
Yep. Without it, if you'd have taken Steve Alford, there'd have never been a Pacer-Nick rivalry.
I hope Indiana just goes for the coach that has the veracity and tenacity to beef this team up, get the players, fight the people outside of him, just care about his team and build this team. Get them to play hard. Getting your team to play hard is the first key you got to do. When you look at one of these coaches, you better say, how do his kids act on the court?
Balin said, I thought Risley was a number 1 pick. I thought at first it said Prick, and I was going to say, yeah, he was.
Yeah, no, I was a 6th rounder by the Phoenix Suns.
He got beat out by a football player.
Yeah, Sam Clancy.
Not a bad football player either.
No, he was a number 3 pick for them.
Where did he play college basketball at?
Sam Clancy, did he go to Penn State, or where did he go? Google it real quick. Look it up.
I will.
I thought it was an East Coast school, but I could be wrong.
Let's see, because he didn't really play in the NBA. I don't think.
No, he played like a season. Then he went to the Colts. Played for the Colts football for a while.
He played for the Colts at the end of his career. I think he was mainly a Brown. Let's see. Yeah, he played for the Seahawks, the Pittsburgh Maulers in the USFL, Memphis Showboats in the USFL.
Where did he play college ball?
That's what I'm looking for.
Pittsburgh.
From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania College, Pittsburgh. He was an 11th round pick in the NFL draft.
Larry Nance was the number 1 pick the year I was drafted. And
he was on the Pan Am Games team in 1979 where Knight threw the cop in the trash can and won the gold.
Yeah. Had to get out of Puerto Rico overnight.
Yeah, I don't think he ever was allowed back.
Never went back to Puerto Rico.
There was no reason to.
But I want a coach that is just going to coach a team to get nasty.
Just play hard.
Play hard.
How about this? How about this?
Play hard. It's something I have not seen an IU team do since Knight was here in his heyday. I've not seen an IU team get after it game after game for an entire season and just play hard. Everything else will fall into place if you just play hard.
Robert Schwartz says, yep, there is another point to ponder. Can a coach with 1 year mid-major D1 experience get the players that a P4 program needs? What you're saying about is not lost on me.
What did Dusty May do? I know he was more than 1 year.
Yeah, he was a couple years, 3 years. I think.
Florida Atlantic to the Final Four and then comes around in 1 year and takes Michigan to possibly a Final Four. Big Ten champions. Like I said, Indiana's done this for 30 years. Have they ever even gotten to the championship game, Mike?
Who?
One
Yeah, a
time,
long
Indiana
time ago,
University.
maybe. I don't
One
even
time
remember.
in the history of the Big Ten
Williams
tournament.
says Woodson would not have won with Duke players. I think that Woody would have had them firmly in the first four.
No,
with Cooper
Matt
Flagg
Painter would be
on Canoodle.
Matt Painter would be the last person I would bring to this program.
Yeah, we don't need Matt Painter.
He cannot win tournament games.
He won 5 last year, Steve.
Okay. Didn't win a championship.
Steve, so?
I don't want him. He's a nice guy.
So, who do you want
I'm
to be the new head
semi-friends
coach?
with him. I mean,
who do you want to be the new head coach?
Who do I want to?
Yeah.
Dusty May.
He's never won a national championship.
So he will before it's all said and done.
But it's not going to be
I'm telling you right now, I believe Michigan will win one before we do.
It wouldn't take much, I don't think. Balin Gardner says 2002 was the last IU team I saw play with intensity, just my opinion. I thought
that was a nice team.
I thought it was not. It was 2 years after night. I think Yogi Ferrell's team was in 16. They went to the Sweet 16. I think they played pretty hard. Robert Schwartz says one time Mike Davis in 2001. One time what? I must forgot what we were talking about.
I'll tell you what. In 81, we pounded the shit out of people. I mean, we had Perkins, Worthy, and Al Wood so screwed up by halftime they didn't know what hit them.
Good thing you didn't wait another year to get that game, because then Jordan would have been there too.
Oh, Dockage we'd have had Dockage.
Oh yeah, I forgot we had Dockage. If Jordan gets in foul trouble, only plays half the game.
Care of that crap. Of course,
yeah. If Jordan gets in foul trouble and Dockage only has to guard him for half the game, Dockage can hold him to 16. Robert Schwartz not going to bet with Steve Risley on that one. LOL. I don't even know.
I don't know. Okay, so I guess right now the coaches you mentioned, I think the pick would be McCollum if we can get him.
All right, so
and I don't know why we couldn't get him, because anybody that thinks Iowa is a better place to go than Indiana is knucking futz.
All right, Troika says, I know it'd be new head coach's decision, but we'd like to see Calvert and Jordy retain their positions. They're fucking losers. And Bife, fucking loser, even if not. Why do we want to bring back people from a staff that lost?
Well, why do you want to bring back all former night players? Why?
Just get rid of this shit.
Let the night thing go. I'm a night disciple. I played for the guy. I worship the ground he walks on, and I'm saying, let him go.
Oh, Jesus, William. I would like
Fife.
Why would you want Fife
back? He has made no effort to get back into coaching.
Fife was a head coach, and he failed miserably, and then he went back to Michigan State to be an assistant. McCollum needs to come in and clean house.
Needs to come.
Somebody needs to come in and clean house.
Well, no, house is going to clean itself.
Hopefully.
Because these guys are all going to leave.
Well, I think Luke Goody will want to stay.
Well, he's 5th year. He's 6th year or something, isn't he? Going for
he only played a few games to 1 year, and he got
hurt. Bottle's a 6-year player, too? I didn't realize that.
Well, he looks like he's 47.
He does, doesn't he?
McCaffrey to IU. You know what? We'd at least be able to score. It'd be the hurrying Hoosiers again. Every game would be 98 to 93.
Right now the coaches that are, and we don't know who is or isn't available. I like McCollum, but like I said, the way this selection process works, this university, God, we may get somebody that we've never even heard of or considered.
Well, I've also heard, what's his name? Alan Huss, the coach from High Point, now mentioned also. He's got to be better than Woody.
The thing about it is you can't gauge coaches on coaching ability anymore because so many of them are influenced by nil money. They bring good players in.
I will tell you this, Steve. The one thing, though, here is if you look at Pat Kelsey, Dusty May, these are all guys that came from mid-major programs that know how to build a team.
Right.
They can't just throw money at it. And the other thing is this, John Shire at Duke. I don't think enough people talk about what a great job he's done, not just recruiting. And I know they've got a lot of money, but he's got 4 guys that are probably going to be first-round NBA picks on his team, and they all play hard. And Cooper Flagg, who's probably the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, is actually talking about coming back next year to play because he's having so much fun. That's what you need.
He's a white kid, isn't he?
Yeah. He's an absolute monster, too. Robert agrees.
The kid that came from Kentucky is playing for the Lakers now? Connect?
He played at Tennessee.
I was at Tennessee. Well, that kid is eating him alive out here in L.A.
Should have gotten Nate Oates the last go around if Dolson was actually pulling the strings. He wasn't pulling the strings though. And Nate Oates hasn't won a national championship either.
Yeah, Dawson wasn't pulling the strings on the basketball coach process.
Quentin Buckner was pulling the strings.
I don't believe that. Yeah.
So
I got another bone to pick before we hang up.
We'll pick it away.
Freaking not agreeing to play in any of the postseason tournaments is bullshit. You know what? You these kids have earned the right to go play. I don't. This whole thing of like, well, we can't play in a big tournament. We're not going to play. That's horseshit. These kids should, for a lot of these guys, it's the last time. For me, it was the last time I ever put on a legitimate uniform and played. Now, I went out a winner, a national champion. That's fine and dandy. But it doesn't mean I wouldn't have liked to play a few more games if I could have. And to sit there and tell these guys at the end of a season that, hey, you can go to Vegas for a week, play in a tournament out there, or we can go to the NIT, which starts tonight, and you play in that. It's just a chance to keep playing, a chance to take younger, new players that may be around next year, give them a bulk of the minutes. If the big guys like, Bob Bottle says, I don't want to play anymore. All right, see you. Go.
Me no play no more.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that. I thought that, but I'm not going to say it that way. I'm not going to be.
I don't think he was here for the.
But I was thinking that.
I don't think he was here for the schooling.
You'd be proud of me. I caught myself and I wanted to say it just like
You'd
that.
You'd be proud of me. I said it for you because I can tell what you wanted to say.
But I think it's horse pucky that they did not accept an invitation to play in one of these tournaments. In 79, we were heartbroken. We didn't make the dance. We went and kicked everybody's ass and won the NIT. And that propelled us into a great basketball team. We picture Isaiah coming the next year, made a huge difference for us. But by 81, having won in 79, when the NIT was a damn good tournament, because he only took 48 teams.
Hey, real quick, Steve, you got to do this for me here. Robert Schwartz says, keep hearing the Signetti comparisons. Be honest, did anyone expect him to win 11 games? You remember on the show last year when I said that I thought they would win at least 8 or 9 games?
No, you called him, but I expect you to.
Because I'm a genius, Steve. All right, AJ Adams says, I think that if things were in the works with DeVries, that an announcement would have been made by now.
No, they can't. They can't.
No, he's not in. They're not in. I don't know. They may. I think they are in the tournament out in Vegas, though. So that may be why.
Oh, DeVries? Oh.
Yeah. Brian Wetters says, sorry, Steve, different era. Players don't think loyalty anymore. Steve Alford was spot on.
I don't all completely agree with that statement.
No,
I still think there are players.
Duke guys. Hell, you got Cooper Flagg may stay another year at Duke.
I look at my mentality, and I got asked many times about, am I planning on leaving Indiana? Matter of fact, USA actually wrote an article, USA Today, about whether I would leave or not. And I remember the first call I made was Coach Knight. I said, Coach, don't worry, this is bullshit. I'm not going anywhere. And Coach just said, let's put out a statement saying you're happy here. I said, Coach, I didn't say I was happy. I said, I'm not leaving.
All right. AJ Adams says, I have watched Indiana ball since 70s and truly believe that Ben McCollum will win 2 to 3 national championships before IU or will with another team. And yeah, and I saw somebody the other day make a comment on one of the Facebook pages that he should come to Indiana because it'll be easier to win a national championship than it is in Iowa. I don't think that's the case anymore because times are different. I know there's more money, but I think there's a lot to be said for a dude who can actually knows how to put together a team and not just have to buy the team. Robert Schwartz says your Southern Indiana roots are showing. AJ Adams says, no, they turned down invites at WV. Okay, so maybe by the end of this week, they'll have a coach. Robert Schwartz says, if there is an announcement, I wouldn't expect it before next Tuesday at the earliest. That's a whole lot of comments.
I don't think you'll hear anything until the tournament's over.
It's according to who they're going to hire. If it's going to be DeVries, then it can be. If it's going to be McCollum or Brownell and they lose this weekend, you may hear something by the middle of next week.
I tell you, when we talked briefly about him, I thought Northwestern plays hard too.
Well, they do. And he's a good basketball coach.
He's a good basketball coach,
but this is the thing. He's never
His
came
family's
close.
from Chicago. He's
Never even been
rooted
to the
there.
Sweet 16, Steve. And before you were ripping
Yeah.
on guys that didn't win national championships.
And Northwestern should have the money to buy the players they need.
Yeah, but see, they're more interested in academics because they're an actual university.
Yeah.
I am not saying that they're better than us because I think the sport should be much more important than the stupid academics at a liberal college, Steve. But
yeah,
there's no debate team in Indiana that we're watching, so I would watch it though if it was
back to my bitch session. I think that Indiana should have played in one of the 2 postseason tournaments.
I don't. I think they're useless.
I don't care if they're useless. It's a chance to play.
How about this, Steve? If I knew all my guys were coming back next year and I had a young team, I would. With Indiana's situation, all those guys are leaving anyways. They already weren't trying. Why the hell do you want to take them out to Vegas so they can embarrass themselves even more? They'll go out and Butler will run them by 25.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm speaking for me. I'd love to play the game. I love to knock people around. I agree,
but I
love to get down and dirty. I love to be nervous going into starting the game, and I loved till I got my first hit on somebody, and then I felt good, and then it's like, okay, now I'm ready to get up and down the court.
AJ Adams says, I think the national championship team from 81 would win it today. They wouldn't because they wouldn't be allowed. Steve would foul out. Landon would foul out.
Yeah.
Everybody would foul out. The game is.
We'd have to adjust our game so much.
Put it like this. If you put guys today against the 81 team, outside of maybe Duke, I think you'd beat the hell out of all of them because you're playing with rules they're not used to.
Right.
But.
No, I thought that too. I thought, boy, I'd love to see our team play today. Then I thought, we wouldn't survive because we played what they call an intentional foul, a level 1, level 2. I'm like, are you kidding? That's nothing. We used to do that for fun. You weren't even pissed at somebody when we hit them like that. And we expected it back.
You and Tolbert and Jimmy Thomas would all have been in jail.
I mean, Kevin Boyle, when he put stitches above Isaiah's eye against Iowa, he knew it was coming back to him, and I got him. And he got less stitches.
Did you ever think about just taking the game over and teaching him a lesson by scoring 30 on him?
Did not have that ability.
You had that ability, just didn't have a coach that would leave you in long enough to shoot 15
I know.
times.
The minute I took one of those jump shots, you know what the greatest motivator in the game is? The bench. I'll motivate Risley not to shoot the ball.
All right, guys. Are you about ready to wrap it up, Steve, or you got anything else?
I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it now. I'm pissed that they're not playing in a postseason tournament. That makes me mad. I want proper people selecting the next coach and not improper people. And I want basketball people that know the culture of Indiana basketball and feel it and understand that culture. And if you get somebody different, you're going to get the same bullshit that we've had for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Williams says, I think IU isn't playing anymore because they want the Woodson thing over when looking to hire a new coach. I think the whole team.
There's a million reasons why they're not doing it. I understand. But there's only one reason. I think if you ask the players privately and say, you want to go to Vegas and play ball with all your nil money, or do you want to just quit right now and go home? And that's for a lot of you. That's the end of your basketball life.
All right, Steve. We're going to go ahead. I guess we're going to wrap it up. We're at almost an hour. We'll be back sometime this week because me and Steve will get bored. Maybe it'll be a new coach named in a couple days.
We'll definitely be back when they name a new coach.
Yes, we will. All right, guys. You can follow.
I'll tell you what. Let's just plan on a show next week. See where we are. Well, again, you probably won't hear much on nil transfers until after the season either.
Well, I mean, with IU ones, they may wait.
I'll put it to you this way, Mike. We'll tell people this. We'll give you notice, and any breaking news with IU, we will come on and do a show.
Hey, Troika
give
says,
you our worthless opinion on that.
Troika says, just thought Fife was a good assistant with MSU, and he got screwed by. We all got screwed by Woody. Not to go back there, but when I asked Steve if he would take orders from Kidman, I meant not because she's a woman, but because of visual distractions. I think we all understood that, Troika.
Oh, he's talking about Linus.
Yeah, like a show.
Sure, I'd take orders from Nicole Kidman. I'm not being, The only woman idiot I think I know right now is Angel Reese. We're going to strike because we think we deserve more money than the NBA players.
What about Kamala Harris? She was pretty stupid. Hillary Clinton.
Oh, don't get into politics because I
That's
open up
not.
a
You're
whole
just
new
talking about
can of
stupid
worms.
women. All right. You can follow Steve Risley at SRisley34.
If you have not seen Linus, it's on Paramount. Watch it. It is a damn good show.
I've been watching Hunting for Hitler.
Huh?
I've been watching Hunting for Hitler.
What's that on?
It was actually like 8 or 9 years ago, but I never did watch it. It's just the part where he actually died in Brazil or Argentina in like the 1970s or 80s. And they have plenty of proof too. So
he's still alive with Elvis and Kennedy.
No, he's not. Don't be a dumbass, Steve. Kennedy obviously was dead because his head blew up in front of us. Elvis possibly. Elvis
Kennedy
possibly.
was never in that casket.
Okay. I thought that was Elvis that was never in the casket.
He couldn't fit.
He wasn't that fat, Steve. He wouldn't have been on my 600-pound life.
Mike, he hadn't shit in about a month. That's what he died from.
From not shitting?
Yeah, he took so many opioids and drugs that he got so constipated. He died on a toilet trying to
Well, I know that. Wouldn't you just blow up?
He did blow up.
He blew up? Is that why there's no pictures?
Where's your lead singer? He blowed up, sir. He blowed up.
I don't know. This just went off the rails. All right. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. But for now, guys, for Steve Risley.
That's an homage to Stripes, the movie Stripes, with Warren Oates.
Fact, Jack.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
The great Ivan Reitman when he was alive.
It's really not as good.
John Candy.
I like Slapshot.
Slapshot was a great movie.
Slapshot was a great movie. Plus, I like hockey now.
Yeah.
They get still.
What did I watch the other day that I thought I was going to give you crap about because I thought it was
Robert Schwartz says riding around.
Well, you know what I watched the other night at about 2 a.m?
What'd you watch, Steve?
It is truly a great movie. $1 Million Baby.
Yeah, it's very sad at the end, though.
Very, very, very sad. But apparently it's really based on a true story. Like loosely.
Really loosely.
Really loosely.
It's kind of like Hoosiers, is it 19?
You know, it's just one of those things when it was just starting. I was flipping channels at 2 a.m. and it was just starting. I just said, I got mesmerized into it. I knew the story because I'd seen it before. Yeah. But it's just great acting by everybody.
Well, that's when good movies used to win like Oscars,
yeah,
awards. Not anymore.
She got Best Actress for that. Yeah, it was great. I thought, well, I got to give Mike crap because you talk about sports movies. We never mentioned $1 Million Baby.
I do when me and John Raspani talk about boxing movies.
That's a hardship of sports right there.
I'll tell you another one I like was Cinderella Man.
That was with hang on, Russell Crowe, right? Yeah, that's good too.
None of them were as good as Rocky though.
Rocky was good. The original Rocky was as good as it gets.
Yeah. But all right, guys, make sure you follow me at Grueling Truth.
Riding around in a UFO with Bigfoot.
But for now, for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster.